basically. But if everything went well, we should be live.
We are live.
Yeah, we are. And welcome everyone to today's episode of Everything Outside Code, where I talk to an expert, a founder, a marketing person about the really difficult parts of going to market with a product. And today I have a legend on stream, and I have Prashant Sridharan.
Yeah, it's
Said it.
good.
Yeah, I wanted
Yeah,
to say first try and see if I get it. Yeah, welcome to the stream, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, which is developer marketing, but not in isolation. But how does developer marketing change and maybe evolve? How do you key into also opportunities with the AI gold rush? The talks of AI on LinkedIn, even in the news. You know, we have folks on the streets now talking about AI and using Chat GPT and stuff. What does that mean for developer marketers? Prashant
Yeah,
comes with experience from Twitter, Microsoft, now Supabase, Tinybird. So, like, huge experience, and also he's written a book. Could you show us the book? Picks and shovels, and it's in gold. I
yeah,
like I like the color scheme as well. It's in gold. So we're going to talk a bit about the book on this stream. But Prashant, you wanted to say something?
yeah. I think the most important thing about developer marketing and the AI gold rush is you have to have the fundamentals. The fundamentals of marketing are probably stronger than ever, or more important than ever. And what I tried to do in my book is to try to teach the fundamentals so that you're prepared for being able to use AI, being able to use whatever technologies come down the pike, and use them properly and use them well. And I think I'm happy to chat about the fundamentals here. I'm also happy to chat about some of the AI workflows that I use. I use AI extensively in my daily marketing life, and happy to chat about any of those things.
Yeah, that's amazing. We'll get right into that. It feels like 45 minutes may not be enough for this, but I'll try. I'll try my best. If you're listening to this and you have comments or questions, just leave them wherever you're watching this, and we'll definitely see it and we'll take it on the stream. Let's start with a bit of background, Prashant. How'd you get here? Not to the stream, but to the head of product marketing at Supabase.
Yeah, I've spent my entire career in developer marketing. I actually started as a developer and a support tech, working on a product for Sun Microsystems in the early days of Java. And then I ended up going to Microsoft. I gave a speech at a local meetup. Back then we called them user groups, but I gave a speech at a local user group. And someone from Microsoft was in attendance. And the next day I got an email from them, and they asked me if I wanted to interview at Microsoft. My best friend from high school was working at Microsoft at the time, so I thought of it as a way to get a free trip to Redmond and a free trip to Seattle. But it turned out when I was interviewing that I actually really enjoyed the people that worked there. I really enjoyed the teams that I interviewed with. I interviewed with two different teams. One option was to go to the software engineering route, which would have been a very different life for me. And the other option was to go into the marketing route, working for a guy named Tom Button, who had basically created the Visual Basic phenomenon at the time. And so I basically learned the fundamentals of marketing from Tom. Almost every day I go through various, things in my real job that go back to what Tom had taught us in the early days, and started there at Microsoft and eventually ran all of Visual Studio marketing, product management, and biz dev. Left from there to go to Amazon. I was the first director of marketing for AWS. Left Amazon to go to Facebook, worked on their platform team there, then went to Twitter to run their platform team. Twitter was probably the best job I've ever had, the best team I've ever built. Remarkable experience, and I loved the product more than anything before Elon ruined it. And then I left Twitter to go to a startup, go back to Microsoft actually really briefly to help out a really dear friend to rebuild developer relations at Microsoft. And then I left Microsoft to go to a startup called Timescale, which has a new name now. But Timescale was a remarkable experience, Postgres database. Had an awesome time there. Left Timescale to go to Tinybird. Worked for a little while at Tinybird, which is a great little analytics product. And then I left Tinybird to come to Supabase, which is where I am now. And I lead product marketing at Supabase currently. So pretty much my entire career working in developer products, working on very nerdy developer products, and really kind of honing the kind of fundamentals of developer marketing. And what I tried to do in this book is take a lot of the things that I've learned, the core, I keep calling them fundamentals of marketing and marketing to developers, and codify them in the book. I work with a lot of startups, and a lot of founders are constantly asking, how do I drive growth with developers? If I write this blog post, how do I get it to be #1 on Hacker News? Like, these are the kind of questions that people who are not really familiar with developer marketing tend to ask. And so I wrote this book as sort of a way to teach everyone how to go to market with developers, how to build out your team, how to run developer relations, run product marketing for developers, and so on. And so that everyone has this base level of knowledge that they can build from.
This is this is amazing. First, what's the best way to get a link to the book for anyone that wants to get it? Is
You
it
can
on
go to,
Amazon?
it's on Amazon, but you can go to www.picksandShovels.dev. And there's a link from there to
Mhm.
order.
Yeah, I need to pull it off. Picks and shovels, the dev. Yeah, also in gold.
I'm not a gold person. I'm more of a silver person. Right. So.
Oh yeah. So if you're really interested in, I guess, figuring it out with developer marketing, you should check out Picks and Shovels. We're going to go into a bit about it, especially the fundamentals. But it's interesting that you've worked at companies and you've helped drive developer growth for companies that personally I've used maybe all of them at some point, maybe not time scale,
Mhm.
but from Twitter APIs to interacting with AWS and I use Supabase currently
Mhm.
internally, and we use Tinybird as well for analytics. So it's like, and these are really great products.
Mhm.
Speaking of fundamentals, on a high level, what are these fundamentals of developer marketing, and how do they differ from product marketing or just traditional marketing?
Well, I think it all starts from my mantra in the book, and actually the book starts with chapter 0, with a mantra I call "Help First." So, as a marketer, a traditional B2B SaaS marketer, you may try and go lead with features and benefits, and talk about the product and talk about how the product fits into someone's workflow and so forth. With developers, before you even get to that point, step 0 is, how can you be helpful to that community? As Supabase, we cater to application developers, we cater to Postgres developers, and so on. And we start with the fundamental mantra of, how can we help? How can we go to a community and be helpful? How can we go to a community and teach? How can we go to a community and listen and learn? How can we be helpful? And help first is the fundamental principle of developer marketing. I actually also believe it should be the fundamental principle of life, where you give a lot of yourself to the world and to the community and expect nothing in return. And the giving is very joyful. With developer marketing, when you give to a community, you tend to earn respect, you tend to earn trust, and respect and trust are the currency of developer marketing. And there's the old adage where you can build trust over months, but you can lose it in a day. And it's really, really important every day to show up with the help first mantra, to show up with the
Yeah,
idea that you're going to be helpful. In the rest of the book, beyond help first, the rest of the book kind of anchors around that principle. And the rest of the book, I talk about how to build content that works, how to grow and build your developer relations team, how to run developer events, how to do positioning and messaging for developers. All of those things come back to that first principle of being helpful.
yeah. So that's amazing. And something you touched on that I really like is it takes a long time to build trust, and
Mhm.
then you could just lose it in an instant. What's sort of like the biggest ways you've seen teams lose developer trust? And we've seen a couple of them. I have as a developer advocate, but from your breadth of experience, what's like usually the one way teams just like lose it?
Yeah, and I think what's So one really common way is that you start moving towards sales faster than your community is ready for you. So if you have a large community that you've built, and then you start inserting into monthly newsletters, into the product, into everything else, annoying upsell messages, dialogue boxes that need to be dismissed, emails that are fast and furious about upsell, upsell, upsell. These are the things that can help you lose, can drive you to lose trust. You've built this community. Other things are clear, like when you have a crisis. I talk about crisis comms, crisis communications inside the book. When you have a crisis, you try and cover it up, or you try and speak in euphemisms. I've gone through many developer products, as I've kind of listed before, and all of them at one point or another have had crises. Today, the most common crisis is when a cloud product goes down, you have an outage. And the worst thing you could do is speak in euphemisms or hide behind something. The best thing you can do is to be honest, to be helpful, to show the community that you've learned from a mistake, that you understand the mistake. And that's where, the companies like Cloudflare do a really great job, and where they publish retros of incidents and errors. And I think that is now kind of de rigueur among almost all of the most popular developer startups. But it's something that, when you have that trust, being honest and being helpful is the best way to continue that trust. And to do the opposite, to not be helpful, to be dishonest, or to obfuscate, are ways you lose the trust really quickly.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I'm curious with help. A lot of teams want to help, but they don't know where to start from, right? Like they're like, yeah, we know we want to help. That's the fundamental of like developer marketing. That's what our developer advocate says. But where do they start? What's, in your opinion, is step one before they go to your book to find step two to 100?
Well, the first way to be, the most important thing about being helpful is starting by listening. And so I go into a lot of communities, and these days, most of these communities are on Reddit, sometimes on LinkedIn, where I don't post anything. I haven't posted anything about my book on Reddit, for example, because if I were to show up in a R marketing subreddit or what have you, and just say, hey, buy my book, I mean, I haven't earned, number one, I haven't listened to the subreddit. I haven't listened to the community. I don't know how I can be helpful without first listening. And so being helpful means first starting by being a really good listener. And then, you go from listening to asking interesting questions, not like publishing a survey and saying, I need you to 5 questions. It's like, you join in on threads, you join in conversations. I love going to meetups, for example. And when you go to meetups and you just sit there and listen to folks, it's pretty awesome. It's harder for me these days because I got a young kid and I got to go home at a certain hour for bedtime. But I love, when I was young and single, I love going to meetups, and I love staying late and listening to people, and listening to what people found frustrating, what people found really interesting, what are the topics folks are talking about. So before you can start being helpful, start listening. I think that becomes the key to knowing how to be helpful.
Yeah, listening. And I think I'll add to that is asking the right questions.
Right.
Yeah. Just asking the right questions tells you, maybe here's where they might need help, or helps you even uncover other problems that they would have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when you start listening, you begin to really understand what the right questions are. Because you're listening, you're not asking the same question over and over that everyone else has been asking. You're beginning to like springboard off of that to like, what's the next yes and why? And you begin to ask interesting questions because you've been listening for so long and absorbing the community.
Yeah, which brings me to my next hopefully interesting question, which is there's an AI gold rush, right? We all acknowledge that. What are the picks and shovels in this case?
Well, I think there is, let's talk about the technical part of it. There are large language models, of course, which are the platforms of the future. There are APIs and products and MCP servers. And so there's just lots of, because we're at the very beginning, I think, of what's going to be a wave that's even larger than the internet.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people who are kind of poking in at the outside. There are a bunch of companies like OpenAI, possibly Anthropic, possibly Microsoft and so forth, and Google, that are offering sort of the platform layer. A lot of folks who are offering the tools layers on the outside. And then there'll be a lot of experiences built up on top of that, many of which we can't imagine today. When you have a combination of compute power in your pocket that is extraordinary, plus large language models at your beck and call, there are a lot of things that you can interpret in the fly as you're wandering
Hmm.
around. This promise of AR and VR, which we've heard for the last 15 years, could finally become a reality because all of this
Hmm.
confluence of all these different technologies come together. So the apps that can get built on top of this platform are going to be extraordinary, and there are going to be some amazing visionaries who do that. My life has been spent at the picks and shovels layer, at the platform enabling layer. And I feel like right now there are a lot of folks who are poking in at the outside of this phenomenon, who are worming their way in and burrowing their way into the heart of what's going to be pretty extraordinary. So, number one, I don't think anyone is too late to get on the
Okay.
bandwagon. I don't think if there's a founder out there who says, well, I've already missed the boat on this, you haven't missed the boat. We're really early. Amazon didn't feel like they missed the boat in 1999. The internet became really popular in 1994. Facebook was 2007, and it's extraordinary. And the internet was in 1994. So I think we're at the very beginning of a massive wave of innovation, and we don't yet know what those killer scenarios are going to be, and we really don't even know what the killer picks and shovels are going to be. So there's lots and lots of opportunity for people to kind of figure that out and go and
Hmm.
innovate.
Yeah. That's true. Like it feels like we're at the start of like a technology era that's here to stay. I mean, we've had, like you said, we've had like IoT, we've had self-driving cars, we've had the blockchain, but they all sort of like fizzle out for one purpose or the other. For this one, it feels like we have a huge chance at adoption. So that reward fuels continuous development, right?
Yeah.
We saw that with ChatGPT being like one of the fastest growing apps. So it feels I'm super optimistic about this. I mean, everyone is. And I know at the heart of this, developers are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the heart of every revolution, I don't know if it's an evolution or revolution, but
Mm-hmm.
at the heart of all of these changes, developers usually are,
That's right.
right? Either it's building connectors, building new interfaces, imagining new, maybe not imagining the experience, but actually bringing the experience to life. So you mentioned something which was enablement. How do you
Mm-hmm.
see developers being enabled? Because are they the picks and shovels, or they build the picks and shovels? Is what I'm thinking. How do you enable them, right?
Yeah. Well, I think so. One thing I think is important to recognize at this point in time is that right now everyone on the planet can be a builder. It used to be when I started in the industry, I had a computer science degree. I didn't quite finish my computer science degree, but I was working on a computer science degree, and I was working towards completing that. And I got a job at Sun Microsystems, and then so on and so forth. And it used to be there was this gatekeeper of having a college degree, and then that became less and less important. And now you see that, with a handful of skills, you could be a React developer. With a handful of skills, you could be an XJS developer. Those frameworks got easier and easier to use over time. And then something happened at the end of 2024 that, fundamentally now anyone can be a developer. The combination of
Yes.
these LLMs, tools like Lovable and Bolt and Vercel V0 and Figma Make and Tremor and so on, these tools now make everyone on the planet a builder. I go on the playground and talk to non-technical dads and moms on the playground, and they come up to me and they say, "I've been using this thing called Lovable. Do you know what the Supabase thing is?" I'm like, "Right." I don't know if that was a plant or not, but I'm happy to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
But it turns out, they all have something that they've been wanting to build that they wished existed in the world, and now they're able to build it using these tools. And these tools are only going to get better. Lovable is an extraordinary company. Bolt's an extraordinary company. We all know Vercel is a phenomenal company. Figma is incredible in their own right. And these companies are not going to stop innovating on these amazing, amazing tools that gives everyone on the planet the ability to be a builder. And now that has fundamental repercussions, because when everyone is a builder, everyone begins to adopt a builder mindset. And every developer on the planet thinks like, how can I assemble a bunch of things together and build something magical? That's like the developer mindset. And now that everyone on the planet is a builder or a developer, everyone on the planet says, I want to be able to assemble things together. And so if I'm working at Netflix, why isn't there a Netflix API that I can pull my Netflix watch history into an Airtable and then rate all my shows and share it with my friend? Why doesn't that exist? And so Netflix, their customer base is going to expect those kind of things. And Netflix as a company needs to evolve to become a developer company as well. And you think about all the consumer companies that exist, as the number of builders in the world approaches this massive number, they're all going to want to be able to plug their tools together, to plug their products together, and to get results out of all their products. And so every company on the planet then needs to be a developer company. And so it's part of the reason I wrote the book is that, there are a lot of people who aren't developer marketers. They're not going to go hire a developer marketing team. They're not going to hire a bunch of developer advocates. That's not in their DNA. Netflix is still going to be a media company, but they also need to think, okay, if my customer base expects this and needs this, how do I deliver on it? And how do I deliver on it with a help first mantra that helps them become successful, understands what they need, and so on. And so this book is applicable to anyone running any business, because soon almost every business, maybe not Caterpillar trucks, for example, but almost every business will be a developer business. And so I think is the premise that I've been operating under. And then if you look at the tools themselves, if you look at tools like Supabase, if you look at tools like Lovable and Bolt, they're only getting better. They're only getting easier to use. They're only getting more approachable for more people. And that's, to me, as someone who's been in this part of the industry my entire life, it's really, really awesome to see. It's really awesome to see more developers in the world, more builders in the world, the builder mindset begin to become pervasive. And that's only good for the world.
This is fantastic, because you just like triggered a thought in my mind, which is I haven't thought about developer products within the context of consumer tools and consumer products like Netflix, like you mentioned. I've always thought of this as B2B products, typical stuff we know, and developer tools for developers building these consumer products, and not the fact that consumer product, like my girlfriend may want access to all the streaming services that we pay for, so she can curate a personalized like playlist for herself, because it's super easy to do on Lovable or use like any tools, or maybe even in ChatGPT at some point. So there's a whole world that's probably not been explored yet with consumer products and the creativity that could come out of those. And then this then makes me think about the tools, right? How how does any team become that developer product or surface a developer product? I think teams like Supabase, for instance, they were already in the running. They had developers loved Supabase, so it was only right that it just takes off
Mm-hmm.
with AI. Well, for teams that haven't been positioned to do that, maybe they've been like a smaller service. Supabase is like Firebase alternative. I use Supabase so long. How do
Mm-hmm.
teams get to that stage where they say, okay, we want to enable this mass adoption and this massive creativity and the opportunity to create that is coming? How do teams go to that?
Well, I think it starts with, and this is more, I'm going to kind of allude to an engineering discussion that I'm not qualified to have. And so I think it starts with exposing the right primitives in your product as APIs. And the right primitives are really scenario driven. If I were to have like a wave a magic wand, what I would love right now is for all the streaming services, Disney Plus, Netflix, HBO, et cetera, to have an API that I can pull my watch history from. If I can pull my watch history into a Notion or an Airtable or even just a CSV, then I can build my own recommendation engine, or I could feed it into ChatGPT and say, what should I watch next? That's really cool. And there are a lot of products that exist in that space today. But I don't know if those products have access to watch history either. You have to manually enter your watch history on these tools, and then on these products, these apps, and then you can get a recommendation. But I would love for the watch history to be exposed. I would love for what's trending now to be exposed. So that's just an example of like those companies starting with an API that enables other people to build really cool experiences. And when you do that, your app becomes more sticky. Your app becomes, I don't want to cancel my Netflix because I want access to my APIs. I'm not going to share a Netflix with someone else because they're going to pollute my watch history. And so, it becomes a vehicle to drive greater retention if done properly. And so, what I would say is for a lot of these companies to start with an intelligent API, but also do it in a way that is true to your business and is helpful to people who want to build with you.
Yeah, that's a very good advice. Is pick top scenarios. Again, I guess ask questions, ask your users, listen to what they want, what scenarios they have, and sometimes maybe get creative and just make a bet.
Yeah.
And yeah, expose this scenario based. I like the fact that it is scenario based and not just we're going to open up our top APIs, but we're looking at more scenarios where users will employ these APIs and we
Right.
put them in the action. Someone in the comments, and by the way, if you're trying to get the book and get fantastic at developer marketing, crush it in the AI Gold Rush. Check out Picks and Shovels. Dev. I have the link here. I see someone in the comments, Nico, said just try to buy the Kindle version, but it's on a pre-order. Is it still on pre-order on Kindle?
It'll be available on September 23rd, but you can pre-order now. Pre-orders are important for authors, by the way. So pre-orders help a book immensely. So if you're interested in the book, definitely pre-order. When the pre-order count of a book goes high enough, the book gets greater distribution. So every author, not just me, if there's a up-and-coming author that you love from a fiction perspective or whatever, always pre-order their book as soon as it's available. It's super helpful for authors. It's a great signal to publishers.
That's amazing. So aside from getting the value on 23rd of September, Nico, you can pre-order the book and you help Prashant as well. So
Help first.
yeah, you do. Yeah, exactly. Help first, and then you get the book on the 23rd of September. That's in 3 weeks. I'd say being optimistic from now. This is great. So looking at the growth side, Prashant, and developer marketing strategy, right? I get a lot of our customers at Hackmember and also, just other DevRel experts I talk to. They want to have a developer marketing strategy, but they don't know where to start from, right?
Mhm.
What's 0 to 10 with a developer marketing strategy or developer relation strategy? I would say,
Yeah.
what in your experience so far should be in it?
Yeah. So this is my favorite Amazon principle, which is start with the customer and work backwards. So if your customer is a large enterprise, for example, if that's who you're trying to sell to, that's a very different strategy than if you're trying to sell to app developers who program on the weekend. An enterprise strategy, like a strategy that's aiming for enterprise customers and accumulating enterprise customers, probably isn't going to start with hackathons. Hackathons are probably not the best tactic for you. Working with college kids, probably not the best tactic for you. You want to work on case studies. You want to work on getting your initial wins, turning them into case studies, case study videos, really good data sheets, really good sales enablement as you're building out a sales team, making sure they're armed with who's the product for, so very clear definition of who the ICP, ideal customer profile is. Sorry. You want to make sure that the tactics you choose, the strategy you choose matches the customer. In contrast, if you were working on a strategy aimed at more of the app developer, someone who's a Next.js developer perhaps, or someone who's a React developer, then yes, you should absolutely work with hackathons. It's a great place to drive attention, to drive engagement. Even college kids sometimes could be very helpful in this regard. You want to make sure you have a really good YouTube presence, really good videos, really good demos. Take a look at how you show up from a developer advocacy or developer relations perspective. I'm a little bit biased, but I think the Supabase DevRels are world class. And if you check out the YouTube channel for Supabase, you will see developer advocates who are not only very good at their job and very good in front of a camera, have a great studio and everything else, but you will also see subtly that the DevRels at Supabase study a lot. They don't just show up with content. They're constantly experimenting with content. They're constantly learning. They're constantly talking to customers. It's an exemplary example of how to be very good at developer relations and developer marketing. And so when you think about your strategy, who is the customer you're targeting? What is their profile? How do they typically buy? How do they typically evaluate? That then leads to tactics. Are you going to do more of a broad-based, broad-reach set of tactics, or are you going to do more of a hyper-targeted enterprise set of tactics? One is much more about community and community development. Another one is much more about sales enablement. You always want to build a community, but where you really anchor your time is community for a broad-based product, and more of an enterprise product. You really want to get your sales enablement down, sales training down, and so on. As Supabase grows, as Supabase grows and our product line grows, we are now beginning to straddle these two different kind of spectrums of positioning. Where Supabase has always been very, very good at the broad reach developer, we also have a set of products and a set of features that'll be coming out later this year that are much more geared towards the enterprise audience. And so making sure, and one of the things I'm working on now is making sure our sales team is properly trained, has really good case studies, has really good competitive analysis, because they need to be equipped to have those conversations with customers over email, on the phone, on LinkedIn, et cetera. And so, you think about the customer, think about the tactics and the way they're going to buy and they're going to engage, and then build out your marketing program to match.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I always say to our customers on advisory meetings that, especially at the start, they need to figure out, are they reaching out to open source developers, individual users? Are they building for teams? That could either be in startup or scale ups, or are they building for like enterprise and large organizations that would largely be sales led, as that informs everything they do, not just the content they create, but also the programs that they run. And I'm curious, you've worked at startups and scale ups, even larger enterprise companies. What would you say is the key thing that changes, or you have to change, the key lever that you've had to pull in each one that's driven like tremendous growth? I see you've built like even teams as well.
Yep.
Was it like the people? Was it tweaking the product, tweaking the messaging, positioning? What was sort of like the key levers that you had to pull across each? And maybe they're different for all of them.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it also speaks to how you as a person will want to, what kind of jobs you want to apply to. At Microsoft, for example, which is over 100,000 people, I forget how many people work at Microsoft today. The key of working at Microsoft is being able to leverage the sales team and the broader organization. And I always used to talk about it in sort of this metaphor of being a marionette, being someone who controls a marionette. You put your fingers in a bunch of sockets, and then you can massage the go-to-market strategy that's several countries away from you. And so at Microsoft, how well can I connect with the sales organization? And the sales organization at Microsoft is massive. How well can I connect with the sales organization? How well can I plug into the tools they use, the training they do, the processes they have? How well can I make sure I'm abreast of like how things change, because they do change every 6 months, every year. The comp plans change and everything else. And so at Microsoft, the key is how do you use the broader organization to amplify your work? At a startup, it is about being on the ground and listening very carefully to customers and making sure you are delivering programs that match who they are and what they need. And so I wouldn't, for example, spend 99% of my time working with a global sales organization at the expense of building community if I was at a startup. And so at a startup, how you spend your time and the kind of programs you build are going to be more direct to the customer. Whereas at a company like Microsoft, you may do kind of high level marketing and PR, but the connection directly with the customer is most likely going to go through your global sales and field organization. And so some people are really, really good at communicating and collaborating across massive organizations. Some people are phenomenal at this, and they tend to work at Microsoft and Google and Apple, and they thrive. But those same people may struggle in the day-to-day machinations of trying to spin up a marketing team. May struggle. Some people do the transition really well, and some people may struggle at a smaller company where they have to do a lot of those things themselves, or they're not as divorced from other experts doing their job. And then conversely, startup people, I'm now kind of firmly in the startup camp. Startup people may struggle having to do a lot of cross-organizational collaboration because now you feel like you're just in meetings all day. Those meetings have a purpose, but you may also feel like you're in meetings all day instead of getting to write the data sheet, getting to write the website copy, getting to write, spin up an event series or a meetup series. To me, that's really fun. But it would be very hard to take that set of skills and apply it to a place like Microsoft.
Yeah, that definitely. I think the key takeaway here is that folks at large organizations forget that they've got leverage in the
Yeah.
brand of the company that they are in, and they can leverage that. They can just use that to do better at developer growth. And startups, conversely, a number of times they focus on like the wrong things. Um, and
Yes.
a key problem I've seen is when there's sort of like a mismatch in people. When you bring someone that's adept at working at enterprise, and they've got like this huge, portfolio, and they've driven growth at enterprise teams, and that's what they care about. That's what they love.
Mhm.
And the startups brings them in, and they still come with the mindset of we want to do this the enterprise way, and it just doesn't work. They don't have the same brand strength. They don't have the larger teams to collaborate with. They don't have the reach, the partnerships, the resources they used to have. Things start to not go really well, and it's not really a fit.
I think it's important though to recognize that just because you work at a big company doesn't mean that you can't thrive in a startup. And just because you work at a startup doesn't mean you can't thrive in a big company. It does take an adjustment period. And
Mhm.
it does take a lot of kind of self-reflection to realize like, hey, I'm really good at these things. How can I apply them in this new context? We're in this world now where working at a big company is not a safe thing, right? It used to be for a while, if you go work at a big company, you were safe, right? But now
No one is safe.
layoffs happen for no reason. You have 20-year
Yeah.
veterans who are experts in their field being laid off from these big companies. And most of these layoffs are being driven by AI for some inexplicable reason. And
Mhm.
so just because you work at a big company doesn't mean that you're safe. And obviously, you've never been safe working at a little company. I think it's important to give people the confidence that they can make that switch. But you just have to reflect a lot on what that change is going to make, it's
Mhm.
going to be, and what's going to entail. And you need to you need to accept that there are going to be a few months of adjustment where you're not going to be functioning at the level you were functioning before, and you're going to have to learn a lot of new muscles and exercise a lot of different brain power as well, and a different set of skills. So I don't want anyone to think that you can't go from big co to startup, because you absolutely can. I'm living proof of it. And you can't go from startup to big co. I'm living proof of that too. And I think, but you do have to really think hard about what it means for you.
Yeah, and just be adaptable.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
actually, honestly, what you just hit on, I think, is probably the single most important skill set in this new era, where no job is safe, where AI is, for right or for wrong, eliminating or reducing headcount. The most important thing is to be adaptable, to constantly be learning, constantly.
Mhm.
You just have to be learning. I write code, I pick a day a week, and I just write code with Supabase. Kind of vibe coding. My code is absolute trash, but I I write code, I learn my product, I learn the competitors' products, I learn partner products, and I spend a day learning, just learning. And I use all the tools. I'm experimenting with all the tools all the time. You have to be in this mindset now of massive adaptability, and just a willingness to just put ego aside, be a beginner, and just learn things, because everything's going to change, and maybe sometimes nothing's going to change because you still have to be humble. But I think that is the key, is adaptability.
Yeah, that's definitely it is the key. And I'm curious, what's your top AI workflow these days? Like, what's the top one?
Yeah, it's funny because I use AI for a lot of things, but I also think that I have, because I have a lot of experience, I'm able to kind of put a fence around the AI and to evaluate the results, to break down big problems into chunks, that I know are how I would do it. Like, I'm going to first do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I farm that out to AI and say, work on this chunk, and then I pull it all together, and then I've got a bunch of raw data. And again, because I'm very experienced at this, I'm able to throw out the things that don't matter, which is probably about 60% of the things that are generated by these tools are worthless. But then there's a lot of nuggets in there. And then I use those nuggets to then go springboard and like write and build things on my own. We're running a user conference. Our first user conference at Supabase is October 3rd. You go to select.supabase.com to sign up and apply.
Yeah.
And we're running our first user conference in October. And so to build the project plan for this user conference, I just asked ChatGPT a bunch of things. Like, here is a user conference. Here's the user conference template I built when I was at Twitter and ran our user conferences there. Here are the aspects of the user conference that I would like. Here are the things that I definitely don't want. And here's what I want you to build for me. And it generated effectively for me a really good outline of the project plan and the proposal for this user conference. It included things like how would I calculate the ROI, which I kind of threw out and kind of rebuilt myself. But it included a bunch of things that, okay, great, let me go into this outline now and start editing and fleshing things out. And before I knew it, I had a really good project plan for this and a really good proposal. And what I liken it to is being a marathon runner who's wind assisted. And to me, the AI is the wind at my back. It saved me probably about 4 to 5 hours of boring thinking, filled out the outline for me, and then I could go and be a little bit creative about how I wanted the shape of this event to be, how I wanted to think about ROI around this event, how I wanted to build out various experiences in the event. And so it really gave me a head start, and I was able to get this project plan done in about 2 or 3 hours, then slept on it, and then edited some more, and then shared it with folks. And so I think if you think about AI as that wind assist, that kind of spring in your step factor, it helps you get a little bit further, a little bit faster, but it still requires experience. It still requires creativity in order to complete a project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good anecdote. I fly small planes, and the plane's still going to fly, but you need some headwind.
Yes,
A little bit of headwind is always good. is always good. That's great. But yeah, that's a good workflow. I use AI in sales mostly, to just parse sales calls, because in sales conversations I just listen and have a hearty conversation with whoever I'm speaking with. And after that, I know I'm going to miss a lot of things. I usually, now I don't have to take notes. I can just focus on having a great conversation and uncovering problems. And after that, I can use AI to rank, which of these problems, which is the toughest, which is next, which should we include first in the proposal. If we're going to show them a testimonial, what does that look like? So it's sort of like a co-pilot. Again, a bit of wind in my sails. Will still fly, but yeah, some headwind is definitely good.
Another way I use it is when I record case studies with customers. I do the case study interview, and then I take the transcript, and then I have an AI prompt, which I think I included in the book. I have an AI prompt that takes the transcript of a case study interview and turns it into a case study. Only uses actual quotes, doesn't fabricate quotes or hallucinate quotes. And then I make sure, and then it basically gives me a draft that's about 60% of the way done, and then I can go in and clean it up. But it saves me from having to take notes during a case study interview. I can have a conversation without having to worry about things. It also saves me having to kind of sift through those notes to pull out interesting things. And so it's just a very helpful way to take what used to be 12, 18 hours worth of work and compress it down to about an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, I have so much like I could still go into, but I see we're on time, and I have one final question. You've
Okay.
built teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've built developer relations teams. Right now, finding great folks or great developer relations experts really difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of our customers ask me like, "Hey, do you know someone? Can you recommend someone?" And I'm always a fan of the reverse approach, which is attracting the best talent. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you build teams that attract great developer relations talent? If there are
Yeah,
some
for sure.
tips you've got there.
For sure. I do have a chapter on that in the book as well about building and growing your teams and being a great manager and leading large marketing teams. I think the first thing I'd say is there are a lot of great developer advocates out there. A lot of them are employed. You definitely should be the kind of employer that people want to work for, that are inspired to work for. That's obviously the case, but that doesn't really help someone who is all those things and is still looking for great talent. What I would say is that there is a lot of talent that doesn't know that this industry is really great for them, that this niche in the industry is really great for them. I didn't. When I started my career, I was a developer, I was a software engineer. And had I not had someone from Microsoft not come to that user group meeting and seen me speak and asked me to come to Redmond to interview with them and to talk about a product management and a product marketing position, I would never have known that this would have been a thing. And so there's one way to grow teams, which is to find people who are highly accomplished, pay them a lot of money, and hire them. You can certainly do that to me, and I will take all the money. But there's another way to grow a team, which is to find people with the talent that you need in this job. And I look at DevRel, for example, and even product marketing for a developer product. It's totally okay to find someone who's a software engineer who doesn't really want to be a software engineer. Um, they like writing code, but they don't want to write code for a product. They don't want to write code as part of a team. So it's totally okay to find those people and say, have you ever thought about being a product marketer? And typically, these are people who are software engineers and they have a really fun hobby on the side. They may do community theater, they may play in a band, they may like to sing karaoke. There's a part to them that is very much an on-stage persona. And so when you
Yeah.
look at these kind of individuals who are developers, but they don't really want to be developers, and they've got that on-stage persona also, they make really good developer relations people. They make really good product marketers because they are technical, but they also want to do more kind of customer-facing things. And so I would say to companies that are struggling to hire those developer advocates, it's not a bad idea to take a chance on someone who could grow into the role and be really great at it. And all the great developer advocates I know, all of them, were engineers first. They've all expressed this amazing personality on stage, again, whether it's singing or acting or playing instruments or what have you, dancing. They've all expressed some kind of on-stage persona, and they are phenomenal developer advocates.
Yeah. That's an amazing insight there. I spoke to someone recently that I think is that. I'll probably go ahead and hire them. Hire them. I just need to check that you're right. They have the right attitude to work, and I think we should be good.
Yeah.
We should be good then. Well, thank you so much, Prashant. Do you have any last words for the audience? I see Nico already pre-ordered the book, so Nico's life is about to change.
The book is Picks and Shovels. It's available for pre-order now on Amazon all over the world, and it'll ship out on September 23rd. And I'm really proud of it. It is the culmination of my career. It's pretty thick, also, so it's good value, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'll order a couple copies, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Prashant. This has
Take care.
been
Thank you, everyone.
fantastic. Cheers. And